Hi, God's beautiful people. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. One more evening. We're here um, learning how to walk through together to maximize our pain for purpose, to manipulate our pain for purpose. Learning how to walk together because it is something that we'll be doing together. Yeah, we're all students and all teachers. So while we teach, we learn. While we explore, we discover. And we discover together, we learn together, we grow together. So that's the intent of us coming together. It's seeming to be now a regular, hey, hi, Camille. It's nice to have you. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Um, it's seeming to be a regular meeting spot and a meeting time that we're establishing. I had initially um, the first time, the first week, because this would be my third time. Yes. So the first week we had started at 8:30, and I kind of revised and reviewed the time, and I was saying it's too late because the discussion was so heated. We had gone into um, eating up a lot of time. So last week I decided that we would have started 6:30. Lo and behold, while we were wrapping up, I got a lot of cussing out from persons who were just coming in from work or coming in off of the road and were not able to join in the discussion. And so last week we looked at maximizing your mistake as a prelude to Sunday's event. I had a great time on Sunday, but you were allowed again to have the opportunity to join us on Sunday for our monthly empowerment forum. We had as our speaker Minister Raquel Ricketts Lee, and she did an awesome job in speaking to us on how to maximize our mistakes, how to make the best use of our mistakes. And see, I'm wearing my shirt, right? I'm wearing my shirt tonight, the Pain for Purpose movement, just to remind you that the things that we go through are not, as children of God, meant to destroy us. They are not meant to rip us apart and to tear us down. God works in all things. He is working in every situation, and we see that throughout scripture all the time where God works providentially to ensure that things work to the best advantage of those whom he has called. I know that I'm not always joined by all Christians, so we bear that in mind at all times, but we're always coming from a Christian and biblical standpoint. So we're always having to have this thing where we are speaking from the Bible. We are using our experiences or our points of reference from the scriptures. Um, I hope you're hearing and seeing me well. From my end, I'm having a little technical difficulty, but I do hope you are seeing and hearing me quite clearly. Yes, so you need one. Sure, no problem. No problem. You can um, WhatsApp me your order in terms of the specifics, and definitely it will be arranged. Oh, for persons too, we have other products, as a matter of fact, and we have other shirts. So um, we had given some samples, shown some samples on Sunday of hi Melissa. Hey Pastor, good night. Well, no longer Pastor, Apostle. Yes, yes, Apostle Martha. Hi, thank you, Camille. Hi, Melissa. Good evening. Yes. So we have other products that we're gradually coming on board with. Um, it's just to serve as a reminder to us as not just women but individuals and or young people that we are called people, we are selected people, we're appointed people. We are not just living random lives. We're not just living in the moment and things are happening to us without purpose. So these items like the shirts, the masks, and the shopping bags. Yes, there are those items. Everybody good doing shopping bags these days because you can't leave. There's no scandal bag guaranteed when you go on the road, so you have to walk with your bag. So there are the shopping bags. I'm going to ask Gabriel just to give us some of those items so we can yes. So there are the shopping bags. These are the samples, as I said before. The shopping bags, beach bags, purses. That's little. Uh. So yes, walking around with your shopping bag, not just a bag, right, from the Chinese store. That's fine. It does serve its purpose, but we want to always have something, and that's the purpose of it to say that um, we know who we are. We are reminding ourselves constantly, and we are declaring to those around us that we know who we are and we are not just walking around randomly and isolated. We are people that are going in a particular direction, and we are declaring that through grace, through God, we are walking around with purpose, full of passion, and powered up for the end time move. And so yes, so you just don't walk around with a random um yes, and this is actually my so this says manipulating my pain for purpose. So it is not just a situation where your pain is manipulating you, but where you are using your pain effectively. And that's the whole idea, to use your pain, not to allow your pain to use you. And so this is where we came up with the idea. We really want to affirm and to reaffirm, and myself as a mother of girls, not just girls, um, girls biologically and let's say adopted, other family members, those young ladies from church, young men from church. We need to establish that when things happen in our lives, it happens with and for purpose. And so we have our masks as well. These masks, yeah, they're cloth masks, but these though were specially made with filters in them. I work in the health sector, if you may, and I know the importance of ensuring. So it's not just the cloth masks, they have filters sewn into them. So you walk around in your mask since they are mandatory. Um, and this one says, shaking my labels. So I'm not walking around anymore ugly, defeated, broken down, good for nothing. I am shaking all of these labels, and this is in anticipation of the book to be released soon. Shaking your labels and living your fantasy, right? So shaking all of those negative labels and walking into your divine calling. So when you walk around, you walk purposefully. Women, so I am a woman of passion, purpose, and power. So this definitely is not for the men. This is for the wives to be, the mothers, the aunties, and all of those persons. The man can always shake his labels. Definitely want our sons to shake those negative labels. So they are no longer called galleys. They now have no gal in a bungle and walking under the spirit of whoredom and the spirit of brokenness, not knowing how to treat their wives and those significant others, and not knowing how to treat themselves as well. And this also says pain for purpose. So we have unisex masks that. So these are some of the we have clutches, those small purses that when you're going to center stage, when you're going to church, and all of those places. So those are coming soon. So these are just little items to remind you of your worth, to remind you of your sense of purpose. I mean, it is just something that when you look in the mirror, when you're at work or you're on the road and you look in the bathroom mirror, you are just in a moment you are reminded of who you are. And so this is the intent of these products. You can always message me for details as it relates to these products. All right. So tonight, as promised, um, yes, tonight, as promised, we'll be having a discussion. So it won't be a monologue. I won't be here. Hopefully, I'm not intending to sit down and just talking to myself. Hey, Nikisha, finally, Nikisha made it on. Thank you, Nikisha. Yes, good to have you. Yeah, no, the midweek thing is a challenge for you, but I'm so very grateful for your company tonight. So, Nikisha is a fellow classmate, right? So we did some social work studies together, right? So she is one of those growing experts in the area of social services and those things relating to what be it? Those things relating to the topic that we'll be discussing this evening. And as we outlined, we'll be looking at domestic violence, domestic abuse. Those two words are used interchangeably. So you recognize that I might be saying domestic violence or domestic abuse, but I'm asking us to make this a discussion. Hey, Doreen, good night, good night. So I'm asking that we talk, right? We interact. Questions. I'm not promising that I can answer all of your questions, but yes, share your personal views, share your personal. Let's talk. Gabriel, my daughter, was suggesting that we might have to have a short series because the intent is to really speak to those persons who have lived this life, who have found themselves trapped in this life and would want some um, keys, and also to awaken persons to the perpetual onslaught on persons within our households worldwide, and more specific to our own country and our own communities. And we've been seeing various incidences of of domestic abuse and domestic violence. And so we will be looking at the whole matter tonight. I promise I won't keep you all night. And as per usual, I have these topics that I raise are near and dear to me, where I speak usually from my own experience. So like last week when the week before I had shared from my addiction to drugs, marijuana, all of that. Last week I spoke. I'm a dancer, lifestyle, and all of that. Last week we talked about mistakes, and I talked about getting pregnant while in church, having my daughter while in church, and being raped multiple times. So these things that I raise are topics that, and I was just here just talking to the Lord just now, and I was saying, God, you know how close to home this topic comes, as in like I said to Gabriel, I've gone through multiple. I've not had a whole heap of relationships, but I've gone through enough in different relationships to be able to speak from a personal place. And I've um, coached, mentored, counseled, stood there as a friend, as a minister to women, different women, um, and men, right? And men. So though we are, for now, we are primarily women on now, then, but there are also the incidences with men that I've had to speak to, and it is something that's very prevalent, and it's not something that the church is very vocal on. There are a lot of things. I don't know. I always say, God, I am glad I'm not a pastor, and I don't know about the pastor thing, because my church, well, not my church, but you understand, my church would be also different, because there are so many things that we can't just pray away. There are so many things that we can't just scripture away. There are practical things, practical tools, practical tips, practical steps that we need to leave from church. Hey, TT, thanks, Sissy. Um, that we need to leave from church. When we leave from church, we have to go home. We have to go to work. We have to go out into society, and we have to live. And so we want to ensure that when we do, we are living um, from biblical principles, but effectively, in a way that our light will so shine that men will indeed see that something is happening within the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God is amongst us. The kingdom of God is with us. And so the kingdom of God comes to bring about change. It comes to bring about transformation. And so that is the life that we would want to live. We don't want to continue under the religious banner and act as if everything can be swept under the rug and there is no real solution to life situations, and if not solutions, but coping mechanisms that can effectively work in your situation. So that is what we would want to be capturing tonight in our discussion. And as I said before, no monologue around here. Let's talk, right? One of the things that prompted me was this young lady, and I cited that recently. I spoke with a young lady um, that her boyfriend had hit her in the head with a shovel. And when she came to be tested to see whether or not there were any damages to her head. And she refused, because in her mind, these things were common occurrences. And if something did for do her, something would have do her a long time. So it is that she was saying it no make no sense, because a regular thing miss, and me just not taking lick, and I beat me a war and me not taking lick. And this was a young lady that was like 24 years old. My son is like a year younger than her, and I was saying, but you're pregnant, because I found out afterwards that she was pregnant, and I'm saying, you're pregnant, you're 4 months pregnant. How is it that you're going to raise a child in this environment? And she was like, this is the second one, and the second one dismissed. And we not left, but him a go like saying he want rule me, and he want run me life, and he want go about him business and do what he want to do. And just left me, lock me up in a house like my furniture. And like it to her, this was the norm. This was a normal lifestyle. And though she was somebody from the inner city, so people take it for granted, say I ghetto people alone live certain kind of life. That is so not true. People also take it for granted that it's only unsafe people will get batter bruised and beat in a yard. That too is another lie. It is something that spreads across a wide cross section of our society. It's remember that the church is a nucleus of the society. So whatever is happening in the world happens in the church. It's just that we so I'm not here to cuss out the church. That's not the intent. But the truth is that a lot of times we, in a bid to cover up and to pretend as if it's all perfect people in the church, then we ignore the pains that our people are going through. And this is not so. God knows that we are broken, and God doesn't need anybody to cover for him and to pretend. He needs people to be whole and healthy. He needs people to be healed. And so this is the attempt in having these small discussions with the hope that we will leave empowered, we will leave informed, and we can go away and help somebody else. And even, hi, Kenisha. God bless you too, darling. Thank you for coming on. And there was another situation yesterday. Yes, it was yesterday. Had another young lady who came, and when she came, she brought her son for an examination, and she was short. The cost of it was 9,000. From time to time, based on your discretion, you evaluate persons and you say, all right, then we'll allow you to do the test, but you will have to come with the balance in order to get the report to be taken to the doctor, etc. And so um, that was the situation. She paid $5,000, so she was to go away, sort out the balance of the cash, and then come back. The lady came back probably about 2 hours later, and when she came, she said, Miss, you not bother do it. And I'm like, you not bother do what? Because I mean, the child would have been seen already. So how, hi Tamara, good evening, darling. How is it that you're going to say you're not bother? There's no not bother because the child was seen already. So you should be bringing the balance now to collect the report to go back. And she said, my baby father said me not bother do it to test. And I'm like, but the test was done. Did you explain to him that the test was already done? Yes, miss, but him said me not bother do it, and he want back him $5,000 because if him did go over the hospital, he wouldn't have to pay so much money and not thief and all of this. And I turned to my coworker and I said to her, we have to figure out a way to get around this situation. And she was like, but we see this every day, and I'm saying, no, this is an abused woman. And all of the signs, because I've interacted with so many of these persons, there are particular signs. There are some things that you see, that you know. There are some things that I lived. Hey, Auntie Pat. Thank you, darling. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for that reassurance, because on my end, my screen is blank. So I'm talking to a blank screen. All right, guys, so you have to guide me through. So um, it was that I said to her, this lady is an abused woman. And she was like, um, how did you come to this conclusion? And I said to her, I'll talk to you afterwards. And we spoke to the doctor in charge, and he said, okay, we'll allow her to go, waive the balance and all of that. And we did that, and we said to her, okay, miss, we're going to allow you to go. You're no longer owing us and all of that. And when that was done, like within 2 minutes, she came back and she said, Miss, you can talk to the person here on the phone. And I'm saying, Miss, who is on the phone? And she said, Miss, please, you can just talk to him for me, please. And I took the phone, and the phone was on speaker, and I was, before I could say anything, there was this man on the other line, and he was started. I mean, like it started and it ended in him. I tried to use humor to kind of calm him down. It wouldn't work. It just would not work. And it was just a bag of expletives. And I'm like, I said to my coworker then, I said, this is what I'm talking about. Um, this is what I mean when I say, um, this is what I mean when I say, this woman is being abused. You needed evidence. This is it. Because if he's talking to me on the phone, he doesn't know who I am. He's never met me. And this is how he's behaving. Can you imagine what this woman went through? How she was berated before she came back to us to get the money reimbursed and the test reversed, which was impossible. So it's just a number of these incidences, and it just really laid on my heart. And one of the things that I know for certain is that there has been an increase, or yes, there has been an increase in domestic abuse, in domestic violence since the whole situation of COVID. And this is because there's an increase in the stress level of persons. Persons have been laid off. The persons always have been work hours have been reduced. There's loss of income on many sides for different persons and at different times. So you find that men, you know that for men, their jobs, their earning ability is a big deal. And so once they're not able to earn in the manner in which they would normally do, then it increases the stress level. And for many reasons, they will lash out, and they tend to lash out at those who are closest to them. Unfortunately, it happens in the home. And we will be looking at domestic abuse and domestic violence generally, but more specifically because the audience is primarily women. Then we'll be looking at that first, and then based on the interaction, then we will deviate accordingly. Now, the thing with the children is that children would normally go to daycare. They would go to aftercare. They would have babysitters coming in, or they would be at school for a number of hours. These things have been reduced. Now, the most of the daycares that I know, they were closed down for quite some time based on the whole concern with the spread of COVID. The same thing with the aftercare. There was no school, so school was out. The children had to be home, so they were left in the care of different persons. Sometimes they were left on their own. They were left with siblings. They were left in and so they were left in vulnerable positions. And as a result, the increase in domestic abuse, in the domestic violence of all sorts was more evidenced over this period. And this is another reason we have to develop. We don't know where this thing is going, how soon it will be going, and so we have to bolster ourselves. We have to really get the information that is necessary. So we have an increase in intimate partner violence. And let me back up a little bit because I'm going ahead of myself. Domestic violence, right? So let's look at what domestic violence is. It's a pattern of behavior used by one person to gain and maintain power and control over another person, right? So the whole let's look at some keywords. One, it's a pattern. Two, it's to and gain and maintain power and control over another person, right? So it is a pattern, it's a cycle. It's not a one-off situation where somebody accidentally hit you and then say, are they hit you in the heat of the moment, and then for another few years, it doesn't happen again, right? It is something that is developed and maintained over time in a bid to control those who are in the environment. It is also a pattern of coercive, controlling behavior that is perversive, life-threatening, crime affecting people. Remember I said it's not relegated to just persons within the ghetto communities, the inner city communities. It is happens regardless of gender, age, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, religion, social standing, and immigration status. Yes, Kenisha, we have to. Trust me, I know. But when I saw the other day another situation where we had a 10-year-old 5 months pregnant by a family member, that did just really rip me apart, because the people just do not know how prevalent these things are. They are happening day by day right around us. Trust me. And so it is a pattern of behavior. And before we go any further, just to have a look, I want to ask us some questions. So, like, really, do you know whether or not you are in? Because there are so many of us, because we have become cultured and we have been integrated into this pattern. A pattern, so it's built over time. And we recognize that there is a cycle. So nobody not just get up and just start abuse you. All of a sudden, it just start happening. There is a gradual building of this pattern. There's a gradual setting of this pattern. So just to stimulate our thoughts, do you know whether or not you're in an abusive relationship? I mean, some of us might not want to speak up to say, yes, I'm in an abusive relationship, or, but I mean, you may not want to speak up, or you may, or do you know somebody who is in an abusive relationship? As I know many persons. Now, for a lot of persons who are being abused, they feel afraid of their partners. A lot of times they're afraid of their partners. They avoid any topics because you will hear some. You all right? You're at the hairdresser and a woman is there, and then her spouse comes to pick her up, and without her hair even done, she'll tell you say, Lord, you have to just hurry up and make me go. And nobody take out the, I mean, for nobody take out the, all right, left the part there. Because, and I mean, it just drove up. It's not like him let her wait upon you for hours. It just drove up. And you will see these women with this level of anxiety and this level of, they're afraid of saying the wrong thing, or they're afraid, one of the things that you will hear constantly is sorry, sorry. Yes, it's a cycle, Camille, a generational. We'll get into that. So you will hear them constantly saying sorry. They're always on the tip of their toes, not wanting to offend their partners. They can't do anything right for their partner. It's like no matter what they do, they just never get it right. This person, and they're always, one of the things that you find is that they're usually striving for the validation and the approval of their partners. And we recognize that these things would have come out of, for many women, and not just women, right? These things come out of, and then you hear people say, you must give your children this and you must give your children that, because man, we use patty and KFC catch them. Um, then we use things to catch them, yes. And a lot of times persons who are trapped in these abusive situations are persons that are seeking validation, persons who think they're not good enough, persons who believe that for some reason or the other they need this person. This person has become such a part of them that they can't live without the person. Yes, Camille, there are so many different types of abuse, and we're getting into that. um they believe, some of them believe that they deserve to be hurt or mistreated. They legit, they will make excuse. They will say, boy, if me never say that for true, or if me never do that, then him really wouldn't let me. But me fooling, and you will hear things like this from them. They are constantly berating themselves, even without, and it doesn't matter what you're saying to them, they believe that they actually deserve this type of treatment. And there are some of them who will wonder if they're crazy, so they don't talk about it, because they will be continuously told by their partners that you're fool, you don't have no sense. And this is verbal abuse. You're fool, you don't have no sense, you're idiot. They're made to feel as if what they have to say, it's not worthwhile. So if it is that, and this is why you see a lot of women that they will be in abusive situations, and the men will hurt them really, really badly, or hurt their children. And when it is the time for them to go to the police station, they will say, they will retract their statements. They will say, no, me not bother press charges, because in the moment they will feel as if, yes, they will. And it is a cycle. Thank you very much, Camille. Do you believe neglect is a type of abuse? Yes. Yes. Neglecting your children, and there are spouses who neglect their significant other as well. I believe physical neglect, emotional neglect are types of abuse. And one of the things that we recognize with persons who did not grow up with certain level of validation is that they tend to gravitate to persons who are emotionally unavailable. So you grew up with emotional unavailable parents. So your mother and your father may have been there, but they weren't very present. So physically they were there, but they weren't very present. Emotionally they didn't provide for you. So you get food. So you grow up like grass. Basically, you just grow up like not like flowers and the nice lawn grass where people take spend National Water Commission money for water. But you just grow up like one big tree, one wild bush. You just in the house when food cook you get some. When clothes wash, your clothes wash. There was no real nurturing. And neglect is a type of abuse as a child because it does not adequately prepare you for adulthood and choosing or attracting the kind of partner that will adequately complement you so that you can provide break generational curse and move on to provide that kind of setting that will ensure that you do not raise these same type of children. So yes, Kenisha, I do believe that neglect um is a type of abuse. Moving away from your partner to living in the same house and having an affair. So you're gone off to have an affair. That is neglecting the needs of your partner. You are too depleted for sex. You are too preoccupied with those on the outside. You are too preoccupied with hey Denise. Hey, you are too preoccupied with friends because it's not just for some men. The neglect is not just women, they're preoccupied with jobs. They're preoccupied with pastimes. They're preoccupied with gambling. All kinds of things that causes them to neglect their children and to neglect their wives. And we find that in our culture we take it for granted that it's okay for men to be emotionally, what would we say now, unavailable, and they're not very mushy. Nothing wrong with a mushy man. I mean, nothing is wrong with a man who spends the time to facilitate your emotional growth and to ensure that you are heard, you are validated. I mean, it's not somebody else's job to make sure that you are happy. But it does something to you to know that you have a partner who is supportive, who is there for you, and all of these things. It does something to you. It lends to, but we tend to attract who we are. So once we find that we're in a situation where we are with a particular type of person, then we know that we need to do some self-examination and some self-work. But I'm not going to get into that just yet, right? So to ask if you know if you are being amused, does your partner humiliate or yell at you? You ever see some people who like, shut up, man. And then you're talking, I mean, like you're having a conversation. And it's not just even you and them alone. They do it when it's just you and them. But you'll be in a public space talking to even other people. And they must say, oh, what that is? You know, say foolishness here. Say, or shut up, man. Or who did ask you? And then, like, and you will see even the woman smile. Like, it's no big deal. Yeah, like this cute little smile. Like, it's no big deal. So that is abuse. Yes, it is abuse. Criticize you and put you down. So they're always, I know of one particular person, and I mean, it would mean the world to her just to get a compliment from her husband. And she says they've been married for 20 odd years and she cannot remember one time that her husband ever saw her dressed up. It no matter how she go out on the road and people tell her, wow, and all of, she's never, ever, ever gotten a compliment in all of 20 something years. So me tell her, said, like me, go turn up in front of the mirror and speak to the person in front of the mirror. Because when I put on my clothes, I don't need nothing more than a mirror. Yes, what I'm saying? Yes, guys. Melissa, hey, Georgia, verbal abuse. It is. Right? So they treat you so badly that you're embarrassed in front of your friends and your family members. Yes. Talk to you some way in front of people like say you're not nobody. I mean, no, maybe this I'm not the best person to facilitate this discussion because them think they make me like kind of bounty killer-ish, you know. So I say cross, angry, and miserable because I mean we are all people. Hey, Pastor Crossgill, I have a very special guest tonight. Yes, a blind him can't see say woman look good. So it is that um we have to know within ourselves that these things are not acceptable. They ignore you and put down your opinions or your accomplishments. So no matter what you accomplish, they never did it. No matter what is happening in your life, you're getting an award, you're graduating from something, they are never ever there. You're trying to build yourself. You never then they never contribute financially. Then in absolutely no way do they contribute to your advancement. And they might not get the opportunity to hold you back, because based on your personality you might not be daunted by their response, but in terms of support, and you can hear the validation and the applaud from everywhere else except from your partner and except from your parents, for those persons who we're talking about. So we're trying to balance the intimate partner and the child, right? So there is no validation. Yes, Camille, self-love is way important, and having that level of confidence, but that takes some tools to get there. No, they blame you for their own abusive behavior. So you make me do it. You hear that? You've heard that, right? Are you make me do it? You see, if you never, boy, may I tell you now, so me tell you all the while, if you just ease yourself, if you just not talk when you hear me talk, just not say nothing. You see, moon box, and these are things that they use to justify their abuse. Yes, T, please, Tamika, please. Please say what's on your mind. Please contribute to the discussion. Yes. So these are some of the things that they will tell you. And they see you as their property or their sex object. And they don't see you as a person. And that is one of the things that I cited last week when I talked about my experience after being raped. How my then partner dealt with it. I mean, the man would have beat out my daylight. I mean, I was just raped and come in and it give me a fine. I mean, I got days. It was like 3 days being locked up from the Thursday to the Sunday. I get beaten and with a repeat of the occurrence. So I wasn't just raped that night. I was made to repeat the act simply because when you not do forget raped. You are my property, because if he did not feel that I was his property, then he wouldn't have react that way. I would have been seen as a person who had feelings and who needed empathy and who needed the support. I was just a property. So beat me you want, rape you want, see rape you. Abuse you want, see abuse you. And that's how they treat. So these are some of the ways to know whether or not you're in an abusive relationship. The partner, but how do you extend love to those abusive partners with all the self-love? How do you extend love? All right. So, Pastor, we're coming down. Should I just flow with it? All right. So, extending love to one of the things that we have to be very, very mindful of. I cannot, for the life of me, being a victim of domestic abuse, I cannot. That's totally okay, Miss Hibbert, Sandy. Thank you for coming on. I cannot for the life of me tell somebody that if you're in a position where you are being abused, physically abused, and not just, trust me, folks, we talk about physical abuse, there is something called psychological and emotional abuse, which we're coming to, which are, trust me, people can see and get a piece of ice to put by your black eye. And then you can go to the doctor and get some ointment for rub by your bruise up skin. But there is something that is so damaging to your inner person. And so for the first option I would give anybody is that if you can step, if it becomes so unbearable, then you have to step. You cannot allow yourself. There's absolutely no way that you can allow yourself to remain in a situation where you're being continuously abused and you just stay just so. Hi Tamara, thank you darling for coming on. Good evening. Fear deprive a lot of women from displaying their true self around their significant person, so it enables the man from seeing them as. That's true. So a lot of persons are with their partners and the partners don't know who they are. Like if them a laugh loud and then see their husband or their boyfriend a come, quick, then in a straight jacket. I'm telling you, hey shake, TT mommy good night. So that's it for real. So I would advise being in a situation like that. Hey, me get beat me man till me feel like myself like for everything. One thump or one box.
But like, I don't know if I should ask something like, but for example, like, if
I'm getting an actual live face to face question.
if like the extent of part, not only like you're in the situation currently, but like suppose seeing the person know that used to abuse you, or you're the sister of a woman getting abused, or you're the mother of a daughter getting abused by her husband, like how you extend love in to the abuser, like as a Christian.
All right, so yes, I think Gabriel is expanding on Pastor's question in terms of as a Christian, how do you? I believe that many wives and husbands are being abused, neglected. Was thinking about how no, my husband would never compliment me at all. He seemed to be never so happy with me being above, and I hated myself at one point because I didn't feel love or pretty. But the day I found self love, man, things. Yes, Kenisha. They allow their opinion of them to drive fear. And all right, one of the things that I recognize is that with a lot of men, they're intimidated by your success because they have very low self esteem, and a lot of men. Well, there are many men that did not grow up with a father figure. So in the sense of feeling what it means to be a man, and even for those who grew up in certain households, the correct model of a man was not there. You're talking about Camille, you're talking about my situation, or you're talking about Kenisha's situation? How long did this continue? So they don't have a true sense of self. They don't know who they are. So when they see you and you are thriving, start to feel threatened. They start to feel as if you are going to it show them up, and they feel like you are going to become so um big that you're going to walk away from them. That's a lot of times where the fear lies, in that they will try to control you, right? So and a lot of times also when men are, I'm speaking for to women now, when men are not able to control their external situation. So in this situation of COVID now, and where men are not able to control their external, so the loss of a job, redundancy, being laid off, there's a reduction in their income, they're not able to control the external, so they come into their home environment and try to control that situation. And in controlling that situation means exercising a level of control over their spouse and their children. And when they believe they can't, so they don't have no control over my boss. So me can't talk back to my boss. My boss make me feel like me a boy. So me come home and project. So then come home and then kick the cat and step in a dog neck and squeeze your throat. And you can never do anything right. So that is them trying to exercise that. Oh, Camille, my situation, sister. There was a 4-year situation, and then there was another so it's more than one relationship that I encountered this thing. The first relationship I was started when I was 16, and as let me quickly move to something down here. Started when I was 16. Let me go look. While I'm saying this, I'm going to look at the cycle of abuse.
I think you should tell them how you end up in more than one situation. Like what internal caused you to end up in more than one situation. That you didn't deal with within yourself, so it caused you to.
All right, so I have a therapist here. I have a little therapist here next to me, right? I asked her to come on the discussion with me, to sit next to me, and she said no. So she over there said eat her food and a suck her bone, and and I talk to me same time. So all right, so for me, this was it, right? I I am the first of 5 for my mother. My father is an only child, so I am the third of 8 for him, right? So my mother and my father are not. I don't I don't believe that. I think my father was just so eight of us, and I think six mothers. So you realize say it was no for him. It was just a move through thing, right? Ladies are putting in more work on self, but the men are left behind. And because of lack of focus in working on themselves and self love, there is an imbalance. Yes, Tamika. And it causes a lot of jealousy within the relationship. Some manage to keep a lid on it, and some of them can't control it. You can't hear or see. You probably need to shut down and come back up. Gabriel, tell her what to do. Orpha says she's not able to hear or see. Right. So for me, Camille, I was yes. So my mother came up out of a lot of abuse. We've not had actual discussions, but I've gotten feedback from other members of the family, and I know that she too was abused, like in many different ways, right? And as we go back to the whole matter of generational curse and so on, so I know that my mother was abused, and I know that my grandmother, maternal grandmother, she was given to work. Like she lived in Manchester. That's where she's from, and she was sent to St. Catherine to come and work at 14 years old. So she was sent from Manchester to come and live in as a living helper to an entire family at 14 years old. So you know that naturally there would have been some abuse. So the cycle. So here it is that I came up, and my father was a horror story for my mother. So I was a byproduct of that. In addition to that, coming from a place of abuse, my mother was not very available emotionally. Um, so as I said, you just grew up, and so there you didn't have anybody to turn to. So you were just there. You were searching for yourself. And then my mother took sick. So she took sick when I was probably about, she was in and out. So by the time I was like 8, 9, I was already taking care of my other three siblings before the fourth one came. Because she would be out in terms of trying to make ends meet and so on. And what happened was that by the time I got to about 12ish, she started to act strange. So she was diagnosed as having a nervous breakdown. And from there on, that was it. So you can understand that there was no real bonding. And so out of that, with a need to take care of her, and by then 4 siblings, the medications to be bought, and all of these things, then there came this man who was 12 years my senior. He came at a very, very convenient time, and so he became my savior. And um, I will look at the cycle. So now that we're coming to that, let's look at the cycle, right? So normal behavior. This man was a married man, but his spouse lived overseas. So he recently moved to my community and he started express interest in me. Of course, me not have nobody to bond with, and he was like the best thing ever. He was so understanding. So me talk about me can go to school and this buy for my mother and food for cook and all of these things he would contribute. Now I no big money in a come like pit me no know nothing about no money. 16, you don't know money. So if you give them time the $100, $50 enough money. So you get it and you just right. So that was the pattern. There's a cycle to domestic violence. So there would be the normal behavior, regular nice guy, solving all of your problem. And so with that now, I was becoming more attached, and he was very, very, very promiscuous, right? Very promiscuous. Because me was just another target. He wasn't looking for a serious relationship with a 16-year-old. I was just somebody else for him to hook up with. And so he would sleep around. There were so many different persons. And during that time I got I never even know. One time I had this horrible problem, and I went to the doctor. And when we went to the doctor, um, at first me know nothing about. Me don't even know nothing about crablos or lice. Like me just a tell you no as it is. This is a part of the whole abuse, because if your partner is not is considerate of you. Once your partner is not considerate of you and the implications of their actions on you, it is abuse. It can be classified as abuse. Now, if you just go out and just have wild sex and just without any form of protection, and then you're coming back to me with just about anything, abuse me. So I got me get crablos. Me call it a Jamaican term. Me get at them time me know about crablos. I know about kitoso. Then my little bit, 16, 17. I got no, this is a whole different thing that I wanted to look at, but since it came up, I'm just going to briefly talk about it. I got herpes out of that. And herpes is incurable. But this is something that I want to talk about on a separate live. Want me do Doreen? You want me stop? Tell me if you want me stop.
Yeah,
Like, you want me to skip that part? Guys, like, if you want me to skip it, I'll skip it. So, and just move on to the statistics and the facts. That's fine. Right? But it lasted for a while. It lasted. So it was started like that. But because I was a person who um became so in love now, and this man was my world. Remember, him start make me feel like there was nobody else like me, and then all of a sudden now we would turn up my house, and then remember one night me just leave somebody asked what when you finish, yeah, all right, guess what happened. Do I know? All right. Me can't please everybody. Somebody ask him. Please explain to somebody what it is to have these lice on your body. Please. So like me not have no issues talking about it. If you have issues hearing it, then me no know. So let me know. If the majority does not want to hear it, then I'm still fine. I'm greatly delivered. But it is just what it is. Doreen says skip it. So if Doreen alone says skip it, no, two persons says skip it. So, all right. So this is it. So, guys, let me tell you something. And I'm saying this on a serious note. You see, when I discovered that I had contracted a sexually transmitted infection, and I'm saying this seriously. I understand when you're saying skipping and all of that, but let me tell you something. When I discovered what I had, and it took me a number of years to know what I had, right? There was nobody I could go to. I didn't know anybody that I could talk to say to them this was what was happening to me, except the doctor that I had gone to who had diagnosed me, right? And I know for some persons, this that I'm talking about is 20 odd years ago, right? It's not something that I'm experiencing now. I don't have that now. I'm talking about something that happened in my past. My past is my past. I'm not bashing anybody. I'm just letting you know that there are people that would have been in the position that I was in many years ago and did not have anybody to relate to and believe, say, it was a big crime and then kept sitting from them partner. And I'm talking about not just persons in the past. There are persons who are married people who are in committed relationships and get sexually transmitted infections from their partners too. There are persons who are aware and some persons don't know. There are so many things that happen in their relationships. So I don't talk because me want to broadcast my business. I talk because as a Christian person, there are not a lot of persons that I could have gone to within the church. I remember at one point in time, there was a pastor who called me because eventually we were talking and she was somebody that I could talk to. And somebody had come to her and they were going to walk out of their marriage because they realized that they had married to somebody who had a sexually transmitted infection that could not be cured. And it wasn't HIV, it wasn't AIDS, but they were so broken by the situation and they were so afraid to talk that in sharing what I was going through, I as a third party person was able to help in that person overcoming the fears and the drawbacks that they have. So for me personally, me not ashamed. I'm not going to talk every single details in my business, but I'm telling you, those are things that I've gone through. And that is why I'm gonna beat up on my young people. Them see they have see Nini there, Naomi. My daughter is sitting right here next to me, right? Um, so it's not something that I hide from them or no. So for you, I understand totally if you don't want to hear, but that's it. I was just answering Camille. So in whatever terms. So it is that um so what happened is that there is the cycle, so the normal behavior, but I started to become very attached, right? So I started to become attached, and he never want no attachment, right? Um, then he never want that attachment. I was just meant to be one of those persons, and me want this clingy, my gentleman only something. And yes, Colleen, woman, there are a lot of things that you are exposed to. The churches are not teaching about these things, which is why there are so many broken homes and divorces in the church. Trust me, me not have share Melanie, like for real. Um, so what happened is that because I started to become clingy and him couldn't go about in business as he want because me I become like a little tail. This was where the abuse started. So there was this thing now where to get me off, um him start to create scenarios. So this is what you would call the setup. For say when he lick me, I'm me crazy because me a nag him. And you know, so me just go to road go play two damn know. And yes, Naomi, you know, like for real, so we talk, right? So he started to create these scenarios to cause me to be abused. And I realized afterwards that he was coming from a place of abuse. He grew up with mother and father, but his mother was very abused. And his father was like 20 something years older than his mother. Yes. So it was a pattern that he had seen and was being replicated through me. And so that the cycle started, and then him would have come and he saying sorry, and he sorry saying him sleep with other people them, and him sleep. I remember one night but just leaving out, just cleaning my house, and some man went to my house and say I'm going somewhere. And I say all right tomorrow, and I forgot something, and by the time we go back, I him a, me couldn't get him. House pitch dark and me can't go in. Me I open me place with my key and it locked down tight. Like it, it locked down tight. And I'm like, why? I just left here like less than 10 minutes ago. And when I went in, and thank you, darling. Thank you, Nadine. Thank you. Um, and when I went back, I said to one of the persons living on the building, I said, did you see him? And him say, like him a itch, kind of say, you know, rat him out. And me say, all right. Just I'm a circle back your house and no response. Can't go in. So I went back to the neighbor and I said to him, you have no newspaper? And he said, yeah. I said, give me a newspaper and let me a lighter. I will away burn weed, so I will away have a lighter. Me never have my time saying give me a newspaper. And he said, something I go look for man. Hey Sissy Pooh, your party live up and running. Welcome. So I take the newspaper and I roll up the newspaper, and there was a window that never locked so good. So me know say the window, the blade kind of flip. And people, the window the right, the bed, the right hand the window. So here we can't see in our house. So me just roll up the newspaper and just light it with lighter and just up me window and just drop it on the bed. People scatter. And I'm like, I was just so broken. Like I would give, remember, so me just clean the man house, change him bed, nice up a place and fix up it, and he just go pick up one other person and just gone in their bed when me just sort out nice up place, cook food till him come. Me a little pitney, you know. Me a little pitney. Like me a 17, 18 by then. Me just roll up a ball of newspaper and some me just a light newspaper and just a throw through window. People scatter, peer things and yeah, man, and this and that kind of story. I'm just I can't go in a house. So these things when you burn it down, my friend, yes. Yeah, them time in my head no good. Jesus fix me head, you know. Like it really just not good. Because this is somebody that you love and you've invested. Yes, Kenisha. Yes, like for real. But this is somebody that you've invested in, you've given so much to, and then like all of a sudden, this is the thing. And when people are emotionally unavailable, when they are not able to connect with you on a thank God for grace for real, when they're not able to connect with you on an emotional level, it's easy for them to abuse you because they don't love you. They will tell us that they love you, you know. And this is what the cycle is. They will tell you, boy, me sorry because all at the night, me sorry, me sorry, me sorry. And boy, me don't know what me did I do. And me I gonna make it up to you. And all of these things. And me just go on. Oh, you mean Sunday we are bad people? How we are talking about? Why we are talking about? So we just bad up, we just make Jesus just work through, we know, and make mash down Satan kingdom, but I see him badness. We just not do certain things again. So it's like I did, Nikki, Kenisha, I mean, very, very low self-esteem. It was like I grew up this way. This was it. You're ugly. You're too black. Like within the household, I was a very, very, very brilliant child. I love to read, I love to explore. So I did well at my schoolwork, but there was absolutely nothing I could have do for make those within my household felt that I was good enough. Never. I couldn't. Me was just never good enough. There was always something about me, and I was a very, very sickly child. The devil takes it from me so till I was sick, I was sick with all kinds of things. So when other children could yes, done it. Yes, yes, Nardia. So when other children could play and I was very, very rejected. So children didn't play with me, adults isolated me for some reason. I don't know what it was about me that I was so rejected. So I had very, very low self-esteem. So this man had come into my life and he would validate me. He would give me compliments. He was that kind of person. He was very, very vocal, but it's all a part of the whole thing. You talk, you just get yourself. It's a part of the whole thing. So I became addicted to hearing him say, boy, you look nice, you're pretty, all of these things that I've never heard as a child. Never heard. So like I would look at Gabriel now and say, boy, Gabriel, your finger them pretty, man. Like Gabriel has really beautiful fingers. And I would point out to my girls and I would say to my son, you look a particular way, boy, you smell nice or whatever. And I never had that. And so yes, I was very, very low as a child, never ever had it. And it is this that sometimes leads us to that place where the one person there come and just fill the gap. They fill the father gap, they fill the mother gap, they just fill every gap. And as a result, we're so tied up in this pattern of abuse that they do almost anything with us. And we do not know anything different because we've not been exposed to a healthy relationship. We don't know what love looks like. We don't know what true validation and approval and affirmation looks like. So we don't have anything to compare. The only thing that we have this to compare to is the dysfunctionality that we're coming from as a child. So when you match somebody telling you that they love you as against never hearing it at all, it's a big deal. Yes, Melissa, he knew, and let me not even say he knew. This is, as believers, we must know that it's a plan of the enemy. It's always the plan of the enemy. The Bible says that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, spiritual wickedness in high places. Right? So it's always the enemy that is behind these things. And the plan of the enemy. You know, that summer when I met that man was the summer that the second time, because the first time when I was 8, I decided to give my heart to the Lord. And my parents, my caregivers said that I was too young. Very, very safe. Did love Jesus bad. And then by the time I just about to enter high school, again I decided to give my heart to the Lord. And just in that, on the heel of that, this man came in. So I know that I didn't know then, but I know now that it was a plan of the enemy to thwart the plan of God for my life. And trust me, in that 4 years, being in that relationship, that man fathered 2 children. One of the best things that ever happened, he would continually say to me, I am not going to get you pregnant. You deserve more than this. You deserve more than this. Me not get you pregnant. But in that, I was in that relationship and he fathered 2 other children. Let me give you a joke. One morning, me go work. 17 now I have a job because I still had to take care of my household. Have a job and he said to me, he said to me one of his friends was in the hospital. And we know that he met in an accident and so on. Him said, follow me go look for like you. I said, follow me go look for Roy, you know. I'm in the hospital. I'm saying, man, sure me could go before we go work. And so when we went to the hospital, I don't know out of the clear blue sky, I must have spirit of discernment from that time. And I said to him, say, you know, say, not just Roy, you come over here for look for. You know, say, a woman you have over here with baby. And we were joking about it, like we legit a joke, say, you have one baby mother who just have baby, and she you come to look for. Lo and behold, people. The man was fathering his second child in the relationship. He had fathered 2 children before I met him. But here it was, the man was fathering because one evening again I turned up from work and stopped by him and there was a woman that he had one of the previous children with at his house saying she have the baby and it's not for the man that she was living with, it's for my gentleman. But this was an ex. So he fathered 2 children and I had to watch all of that play out and I was still in the relationship because this man still a tell me saying love me, he still a beat me, he still he'll treat me and all of these things. And it was what really got to me was when I started to work now and earn my own money and I started to become exposed to other ways of living and other people and seeing different sides of life. And when I started to do that now, then at the same problem start. When they know, you want to go page him. I'm a brethren now, you know. I swear I'm a brethren. I'm a brethren, Kenisha. Like, we, we don't talk often, but like, go to clear blue sky more time. He will give me a one link and so what one I'm some good man and so and that's it. Just but there's absolutely we know say I eat that and it just done and that was that phase of your life and we're moving right along. And when I started to become exposed, no one I started to, you know you start get exposed and you start to say, no, so something wrong with this. So you started to act different. I started going out with my co-workers now and all of that and they say then start now cause a man may have people and then me realize say look here this really now and I would invest everything in it because we just really wanted it for work me did and this is one of the side chick something me did really want him to left him wife because what sense he make and him wife live a foreign and she barely a come them time they on the phone days and now Facebook a letter and once in a while him will get a letter. I mean I say what sense he make and he keep on saying I'm a married man and I just wanted him to want me and to be there and he would be working 7 days a week and when him come home from work he gone all night. When him come back me asleep. And so he was so unavailable and I started wanting more. I was just so unhappy. And I start just want more. I start look around and I start want more. But I really didn't meet anybody. And then all of a sudden out of the clear blue sky, I was at work one day and this gentleman show up and start express interest and we start talk and so on and you know that thing they go. Now me and a bun girl, me no really believe say if I'm with somebody, me forgive them bun. So if me meet somebody and me like that person, I move, but cut me a plan to cut now. So this brother, you know, me must say me no know nothing about man, me no know nothing about no good life, me no know. But this one, I think the first one did bring a glimpse of nice life. That one I want different something. That one I was kind of more uptownish, the vibe they carry. So, you know, a different kind of setting. So whereas I used to go dance and them kind of places with the first one, this was more nightclubs and movies, the nicer kind of vibe there. That kind of uptone vibe there. And so here it is. So yeah. And this was where no, I'm not going to go into that one. But yes, this is it. So I met this gentleman and Babs. I got pregnant. Like in no time. And I ended the relationship. No, I mean, end the relationship with that first gentleman with a hell of a beating. One man up a doctor, bust up and mash up and mouth, bust up head, all about me bust up. I mean, telling you, them time in my family, them no know nothing was going on, you know. And so because I became so fearful, he lived close to where I live, so I move in with the other man. I look protection, you know, I look protection now, so I move in with the next man in short with just the short span between the two. And you know the whole cycle again, the normal behavior, and you're being treated like a princess, worse, you're pregnant, so you're treated nicely, get everything what you want. But then this man was an ex-gallus. So the late night outings, the calls, the all kind of story, and this was a totally different kind of abuse. Like with this man, you know, being a house, you know. Like I was jokingly talking to my children the other day, and me in the house, and he used to work at night, and me hear a little sound. Me and the baby in the house on the bed, and me hear a little sound in the night, and when me look at him, that I sneak in the house, and when me look, I pull out one drawer and take out one condom. And when me allow him to go outside, and by the time me look through the window, I want taxi drop him off, and one girl, you know, in the house at night, outside of my yard, outside of my yard, you know. I mash him go mash her works in my yard, out the door while me inside with the baby, you know. You know yours truly go out there. Got one tub out that door. Yes. One tub outside with a hose spanny. And I hold the hose then I hours. But at 2 o'clock a morning. And I wet them from head to toe. Come here and say, brethren, what kind of thing this? In my yard? You're mad? So, and him also, yes, T, we make some really bad choices because we really just don't know no better. And he also fathered 3 children during our thing. And he was abusive. You see, where the first one would have beat out me daylight. For this, it's but people, it's a really a matter of power and control. The first one was more physically abusive. And you see the whole aspect of the emotional abuse coming out in terms of the him not being there, the neglect, the unavailability, and all of these things. But this one now, this one was leaning towards the narcissistic side. So you have two what all right, in a general sense, let's put it this way, layman's term. You have two types of narcissists. You have the covert narcissist and you have the overt narcissist. So the overt narcissist, the one that is bigger than life and large and way out there and just the life of the party. The covert narcissist is the one who abuses you quietly without anybody knowing. So he was more overt. And so it was just a matter of control. So when it came to mind games, when it come to being abusive and vindictive, if there was a situation, the food, I would cook the food, and the food would pile up for days in the fridge, and he wouldn't eat it, and he would just carry his friends, and I'd be there, and he would just carry his friend them and show them, say, oh, man, the girl not chatting no seafood, them not even near me, and she have to cook my food and left it. And you just, it just does something to you, but you don't know no other life. You just don't know anything else. And so the mind games, and we would just be there like on a good day, and we just sit there and we talk, and then all of a sudden him just start talking, and he would have say, you can remember when like last week me did tell you say me I go up at Elsha go drop off so and so and so. You know say me and Bev did go, and boy me go mash our works on it, and he was just talking to me like me and him in a relationship. I just like a brethren. And him, and me and Babe go. And you remember the other night when time I tell you, say me I go down the road, me soon come. You know, say I run outside me there with Pam. And he was, and I'm like, we are in a relationship, we have a child together. And I didn't want to just give up the relationship. So even when his sisters and his mother was saying to me, don't go any further with this whole thing. Me know, because I didn't grow up with a father. I wanted to ensure that my child had a family structure. So I fought tooth and nail to do this thing, to get it. And it would be just this thing, and it would, the mind games and the manipulation and the talking down to, and you go on like you're more educated, and through you got this at school and all of these things, and how it came crashing down when I was forced to move out of the whole thing. What was when one Sunday morning I got up and I was washing because I would work 6 days. So Sunday morning, me I'm not Christian, so me outside I wash, and I was outside washing the baby's clothes, and baby asleep. Some wake up early and I do the thing and finish wash now. So outside like at the tub and under the line kind of wet, and he got up and he just go outside and just go walk in our mud and just start trekking our house. And they start cleaning house. And I said, Brethren, what kind of thing this? And him say, yo, if you don't want to clean it, you don't have to clean it. Me have more than people line up to come clean it. I go if you I go. And me just kiss my teeth and say, you know what? Let me just pack up some, start throw some things down my bag. And I say, me just cut for a couple of days. And then say, oh, so, yeah, go away. All right, I know nothing. And the man just, most of the furniture in the house was mine. And the man just draw out my bed Sunday morning. Everybody apart that church. Sunday morning, the man just draw out my bed, my dresser, everything. And just draw them out for put. So if you know Portmore and know the pathway, the walkway, and just draw them out. So everybody pass and just see it, kind of when a fence up, it's a new scheme, and then just draw them out. Everything will belong to me. My clothes, my everything. And me one little thing I wash and clean up the place. So I bathe and bathe the baby and thing. And then just draw them out and just put them out. Take out my key out of my bag, throw down my bag, lock the door, take away my key, and just go away, left me and the baby. That Sunday morning, I had my period, and the baby no bathe, so I have to go and neighbor, left the get a beard, change my clothes, left the baby with the neighbor, and walk up and down the entire scheme. I didn't. That was that at that time. It was after 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was after 5 when I finally find a moving truck. Finally, and when I found the moving truck, I pack up my things then. And I just went, stand up in a shower. I'm a bed, I'm a ball. And I say, yo, no more balling after this, no kind of bad not see me ball. So me just ball and shower and say, boy, I just life. And when I really look on the condition, I just come out and I I just got the truck and I just left. And let me tell you something. The man come back and tell me say sorry. I mean make a man used to come at my yard same way. You know when the thing when we finally sever, cut, mash up was when he came one day, just out of the clear blue sky, just come for me. And he brought some friends because of course he couldn't convince me on his own. So a friend them now come and I say, yeah man, man me everything changed now man and whatever. And he took me and the baby with some clothes. That was the Saturday afternoon. And he take me and the baby and everything nice and we go home. And he brought me home to home where we used to live when they put me out. Yes, yes, Steve, homeless. Put me like a tail behind me and find my way back to my family home. And God beg them move over, make me get like a catch. And when I when I went with him, he said soon come. That was Saturday afternoon. He said soon come. You don't want to see back my brother there. You don't want to see him back. Monday evening. And which part Icky not depend him, and which part Icky couldn't hold. maybe like all in ears and their nose and their ear and them places. Brother come back like a tattoo, then tattoo him with Icky. I said, I kid you not. I said, look here, girl, you can't live so. Like there's absolute there you can't live so. Like you just legit can't live so. And so that was when I decided that me just really can't live like this. And it was shortly after that I got saved. And the struggles continued even after I got saved. And to be honest, it is, I am speaking from this place, not because it happened then. It was a process where I had to um, cut myself off. So for 12 years, I didn't have any real relationship. For 12 years. So I got pregnant with Gabriel after that. That wasn't like a relationship. And I met another person briefly, and me never allow it for reaching away because him never save and he just never ever gone away. But outside of that, for 12 years until I got married, there was I allow and me never want a man. Anybody who know me can tell you them time they say, oh man, I can do bad all by myself. Me no in and a man. You can laugh, Kenisha. Yeah. So like me no in and a man thing, right? But my being out of a relationship did not heal those broken areas of my life. Tamara, I need to write a book. I've yeah, my book comes out shortly. But not all of these incidences that I'm recounting are in the book. But yes, my book comes out before the year ends. It's written already and it will be coming out soon. So you can look out for it. That's where it comes from. Shake those labels and live your fantasy. So um being away from a man and as being isolated and living living by yourself and just living with the children, that was my focus for many years, for those 12 years, um just living that life. Hey coach, hey Nanika. Yes. And so living that life didn't I was still in a messy place. So when I got married, there were so many things that I had to deal with. I remember one day I just broke down. There were so many things that um there are so many things that I had to deal with on a personal level. And I believe that's one of the things that marriage did for me in the context that, yes, Karine, you did it all the way, right? So you know. So it's Karine can tell you, me never want no man. Pastor Kraskill, if she's still on, can tell you, me never want nobody. So my husband, I knew him for like 10 plus years before he mustered the courage to ask somebody to ask me. Cause me did so serious. So me no want nobody. No, so it was in the context of marriage though that I found a lot of things in myself that still needed to be dealt with, and marriage also taught me that it's not in your partner. It's not in your partner. It doesn't matter who your partner is. It doesn't matter how. Yeah, it's awesome to have a great, balanced, emotionally available, spiritual. Give me all of the words that can describe it. That kind of partner that is there for you. That is the perfect fit to you. It is an awesome find if you find one of those. But there is that fit that you find only when you find yourself. Only when you come to that place that you find yourself. And it was, and I know a lot of persons are wondering what happened in that season of my life 2 years ago, 2 plus years ago, when the Lord really took me away from so many things and brought me through a season of, I mean, guys, I have 4 children. Four. Gabriel, Christoph, Christoph's labor was like about 36 hours. And Gabriel was like probably about 18 hours. I mean, from the entire time to the time that she was born. For Amore and Azalea, those pregnancies were induced because my life was threatened with Azalea, so they had to induce. And for Amori, I was post date, so she had to be induced. And I'm telling you that the pain that the Lord brought me through in that season, that really brought me to this place of self awakening, was much more intense than those four deliveries combined. That place of pain. And I'll say to anybody that who is serious about moving to the next level of yourself. We're not talking about life, we're not talking about ministry, we're not talking about we're not talking about nothing external. We're talking about the birthing of yourself, the birthing of your true self. The same level, the same intensity of pain that you would have felt as a mother, as a woman who would have birthed a child. It is the same pain that will take you into the birthing of yourself. It is going to be pain. Yes, Kenisha, the woman with the issue of blood. Yeah, it was a real touch. And I had to come to that place where me just, yes, self mastery. I had to just come to that place where me just say, God, me I got dead. And I remember one day when I was there and I felt like this was it, and me just in the dark room and me say, God, me I got dead. I said, God, like, me I got dead. No, me I got dead. Me I ask you, please just ease my pain. And this was not, the emotional pain was so intense that it felt like physical pain. It was so intense.